Nebraska's new coordinators, offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield and defensive coordinator Tony White, met with the media for today for, I think, the first time in their official capacity and talked about, stuff. And they said a lot of things, especially Marcus Satterfield, that you Nebraska fans want to hear. I'm John Johnston, CornNation. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button so more people will see this video. It makes me feel better about my life, especially now that we're in the off season. There aren't as many of you around. But I'll know you want to hear about this. Because by God, Marcus Satterfield got up and he said stuff that should just make a certain segment of Nebraska fans just do things to themselves that I won't mention here. I guess I just did. Anyway, Marcus Satterfield got up and said this: we're going to get in a huddle and call football plays, and we're going to use tight ends, and we're going to use a fullback, a fullback, a fullback. He didn't say it 3 times, but that's for emphasis. And we're going to run the football because we understand the biggest success in the Big Ten. You've got to be able to run the football because you're going to play late in the season and in some interesting weather games. And you can't just throw the ball all over the field. We're going to have a huddle. We're going to run the football. We're going to be under center. We're going to run a pro-style offense. And we're going to have a fullback, a fullback, a fullback. Like I said, there's a certain amount of you that are probably just pooping yourselves or something over that statement from the coach. I look at it, when I look at it, I think, well, great, he just described Iowa's offense. And if one thing I wanted was Iowa's offense in Minnesota's offense. Later on, somebody asked him a question about the quarterback run game, and he does point out that they do, when he felt like he was getting a little bit too traditional, that they need to mix in the quarterback run there in order to keep the defense honest. So you're going to get Iowa with a little bit of quarterback run game. And I'm being kind of facetious. I know. But he did stand up and say things that really, I mean, my God, how much more just feeding this giant, we need a fullback because we were successful with 1 year ago. He also did have this statement in here. He talked about, I'm on a crusade about the huddle. Like the huddle is the heart and soul of football. You cannot teach leadership moments. You can't script leadership moments that happen in a huddle. And he talked about the fact that, you know, when people talk about their best times in football, a lot of times they'll talk about stuff that happened in the huddle, about how their quarterback ripped their head off, or about this guy threw up in the huddle. You know, I could bring up stuff of my crappy career as a high school player, stuff I said or did in the huddle. You know, the huddle. You say that to people and they kind of go, yeah, huddle, man, huddle. I get it. And it's kind of cool. And I'm not against any of that. He did point out that, you know, you talk about a quarterback being a person of leadership, and how can they not lead if they don't get to talk? You know, if they don't get to say things to people in the huddle. And I think that's a good point. It's kind of interesting that a guy is so passionate about it that he brings it up at his introductory kind of press conference. He also said something that I think everybody else kind of missed or glossed over. He said, a coach that we talked to used to coach here gave us some great advice, like, you know, build your line of scrimmage with Nebraska kids and they'll die for Nebraska. That's a nice suck-up statement. You know, quite frankly, if I react to that honestly, which I do, my opinion is, you know, if Nebraska goes 10-2 next season and we don't have a single Nebraska kid on the roster, I honestly would not give a shit anymore. I'm up to here with tradition, and I'm up to here with the past. I'm up to here with everything that we did that made us successful, that we somehow have to do again to make it successful in the future. Well, I'll give my impression about both coaches at the end of the video. But Tony White got up, defensive coordinator. He's going to run a 3-3-5, and a lot of people are concerned about the 3-3-5 because there's only 3 defensive linemen. Oh my God, the Big Ten, all those teams are going to run over us. They're going to crush us into the ground and stomp on us and make us feel bad, and we'll lose just because we're running a 3-3-5. Tony White got up and he said that, you know, Coach Rule had given him personnel groupings for the teams that they're going to play against the Big Ten. And he said that it was surprising to see that 11 personnel was the top amongst, I think, everyone but one team. So what that means is 11 personnel means there's one running back and one tight end of the offensive formation. So what does that mean? That means that this whole thing about how you have to everybody's just going to mash the ball at you repeatedly is probably kind of a misnomer, because people are a lot. That's like the 3 yards in a cloud of dust thing that I don't think is as true as it used to be. I mean, you look at Wisconsin now, what are they doing? They look like they're going to go to the air raid. We're going to go to a more traditional thing, and they're going to go to the air raid. So, woo. And, and Iowa isn't going to change. In Minnesota, P.J. Fleck, he's still going to be running the same offense he is. So, Tony White talked a lot about how, it's always about how the scheme fit the players versus recruiting specific players to fit the scheme. Okay, you take athletes, you take football players and good coaches and adjust the scheme around them. Those are two things he said. And I like that, because what does it mean? It means you can adjust. It means you're going to, sometimes you're going to play 4 down linemen. And he also mentioned that if it required it, they'd play 5 down linemen. Somebody did ask Marcus Satterfield, which position group would you like to see more of? And he said wide receivers. Tony White said every defensive coach would say more defensive linemen, because nobody has enough defensive linemen. And that's always true, because, when you find good ones, like Ndamukong Suh, the outlier, the best one that's ever lived, in my opinion, they're worth more than gold. They're worth unbelievable amounts of success. So you're always looking for defensive linemen in that case. And he kind of points that out with we always want more defensive linemen. I think my impression of him talking about his 3-3-5 defense and what he's going to do on defense is, again, being flexible, being adjustable, taking good athletes or what they're going to find for good athletes in recruiting, and putting them in positions where they're always going to be successful. And I think that's really, that's really what this is about. We get caught up in this 3-3-5 and people are going to run over us. Listen, we get caught up in scheme. We really do. Nebraska with this whole, I love the triple option thing, that we were always successful with that. We didn't really run the option as much as lore or our myth makes us believe, but whatever. We get caught up in scheme on offense. We get caught up in the 3-3-5 stuff on defense. And to be honest with you, let's be honest, 98% of us don't know shit about this stuff. We really don't. I mean, it's fun to talk about, but we don't know it. We don't know what run fit looks like. If somebody said run fit to us, you're just going to I don't know what that is. If you looked at a play and diagnosed it, So, but I think the key here for both of these guys is this. They're flexible people, and they know that if they need to change, they sound like they're capable of doing that. They also, I have coached a lot of different positions, and I think that's important to understand. One of them pointed that out, that if you coach like a quarterback, and then you coach a running back, and you coach offensive line, then you understand all of those different positions, and again, what it is to put your players in a position where they can all be successful. Whereas if you just have the point of view of a quarterback, you might put your running backs in a position that they're not going to succeed. It's about perspectives, and the more perspectives around the field you can get, I think the better off you're going to be. Tony White was asked by somebody, what would you like your defense to be known for? And here's what he said. You want to see a group of guys out there that when they play, they don't look at the score. They have fun watching those young men play their butts off, and everything will take care of itself. And I think that's an excellent answer. One of the things that struck me about these guys, the impression just not about football, it's that they sound excited that they're going to be working together. I mean, they talked about different coaches, and they talked about their first impression of a few players, but they do. They sound like they're excited to be together as a staff, and they're looking forward to this experience at Nebraska. I think that's kind of pretty important that you're passionate about what you do, because if you're not passionate about where you are and what you're doing, you get the hell out of there, because you're going to fail. They sound like professionals. You know, they sound like guys that are going to stand up. And I mean, you could say the huddle fullback thing, were they sucking up? I don't know. I don't think so. I think we're going to see a huddle and running the ball and a fullback. I'm excited about Matt Rule and his assistant coaches. One of the last questions Tony White got was, describe in detail your plans for the black shirt tradition. The media enjoys people getting upset about it, but at the same time, we do freak out about this stuff. And it's just so amazing to me that we get still so caught up in these traditions. You think after all these years of losing, we just really just kind of let it go for a bit. You know, if anything it should have taught us in the last few years is that all of these traditions are not what things that make you win. They're not things that make you be successful. They're nice and they're neat and they're part of probably identity a little bit, but they do not just make success. So let them go. You know, it's going to be, like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing this staff, what they can do. I'm still excited about Matt Rule being our head coach. And I'm looking forward to your impressions of these guys and what they said at their initial press conference. You know, maybe there is hope. Still, fuck everything. Go Big Red.